I guess we should talk about inflation a little bit. There's a great retailer called Lee Valley Tools in Canada, and Robin Lee put out a note to his customers yesterday and just laid it out and said, I used to pay $7,000 for a container that now costs me $34,000.
Right.
And basically saying, A, this is hard, and B, expect trouble, shortages, and C, eventually the merchants and vendors, they can't absorb those kind of costing. It's an input cost. It's not the final cost, but I got to think inflation it could be pretty pernicious for the next 18 months, Welcome to Remarkable Retail Podcast, Season 3, Episode 12. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm Steve Dennis. Yeah, it's hard for me to understand how long this is going to last. I certainly have heard people say we're in for a pretty long ride here. But yeah, between the transportation costs, between the labor issues, some of that's got to get passed on to the consumer.
Yeah.
And how that will affect demand, I think, is and just profitability in general. You've got kind of this weird dynamic. I think we talked about this maybe last week or the week before in terms of the sales forecast is normally when we're talking about the holiday sales, it's really kind of if sales are up 4%, it's because units are up about 4%. But this time there may be more of the sales gains that come from average unit retail going up. And also because of the shortage of products, generally, we're not seeing, at least so far, nearly the kind of promotional activity. So retailers are going to benefit from gross margins being higher than they might otherwise be. So how that all mixes out and when it starts to revert to some semblance of normalcy, hard to tell. But I do think we're in for kind of a long ride in terms of all these different factors. Because some of the issues, we're talking about this off mic, some of the transportation related issues are not so easily fixed. You just can't muscle your way through some of these supply chain challenges because sometimes it's production issues because stuff's not getting made. Sometimes it's shipping issues, the trucking shortage, the unloading labor. It's a complicated supply chain, and any default along the way or any stress along the way can mess the whole thing up. It's not like you fix the shipping thing and suddenly everything's back to normal.
Right. I think, and there's probably a whole episode on this, and neither, you and I have been both in retail long enough to know a little bit about supply chain, but I think what's behind it, if we think about it, is the drive to reduce costs to the absolute penny in the supply chain. So that's where you get bigger boats carrying more stuff, more efficient. You don't have receiving docks building because they just want, they want to be very efficient. And I think that, this could have a long-term systematic issue. Now, at the same time, the old saying, you don't build a church for Christmas. These ports are saying, well, why would I double my port capacity today when in, pick a number, 2-3 years, it goes back to normal and I got a lot of excess port capacity, right? So,
yeah, you're totally right.
Really,
well, it's like a lot of things, I think, in retail, we've sort of created various monsters, to your point, in the push for just-in-time inventory flow, lower costs. We built this whole system, but when it derails massively. We built this monster around, it's a whole other topic, right? But just, teaching customers to buy stuff on sales. We've created returns problems by liberal return policies. So yeah, you got to be careful what you wish for and what you're solving for. So I think this is going to be, at least on the supply chain side, it's going to be more muscling through it for whatever time. And then, maybe dealing with more kind of infrastructure kinds of issues. But yeah, I don't think there's a simple solution to it, unfortunately.
All right. Well, listen, let's get to our fantastic interview all about stores. So great transition to talking about stores with Neil Saunders from Global Data and Mezzinga for Omni Talk.